That's right. That's how it goes, isn't it? Yeah.
Room looks a bit empty. Please come and find your place on your mat. And lie on your back. Okay, and just take a moment to notice the effect of all that extension. Have you done so much of extending and flexing this week that you've come back flat to the floor? Or is there some residual that you've carried over from the last lesson? Compare your two shoulders and the two sides of your rib cage. Just notice, is it easier to detect the individual ribs now? Or does it just feel like a back? Then bend your knees and stand your feet. Interlace your fingers and bring them behind your head. And see what it's like to lift your pelvis into the air and your head so that you start to curl up into a ball. That idea that you're kind of somehow suspended, hanging off your legs. So find the place for your feet that really supports your knees. Is it easier to really close the front of you now to bring your lower ribs towards the top of your pelvis, front? Is it easier to get the sense that your ribs can open and spread at the back? And see what it's like to roll to the right to where 3 would be on your clock. Keeping your pelvis in the air, keeping your head in the air. And then gently exploring that side of the clock from 3 to 2 to 4. And a little more to include 1 and 5. And that whole right side of the rim of your clock from 12 around to 6. And as you do that today, what's in your awareness? Is it the sense of your ribs pressing against the floor? Is it the idea of the paint arriving on your back from the floor? Or the paint lifting away from the floor as your back passes each spot? Okay, and then put it down, let everything rest. So even in that short time, did something change in your back? Did that little bit of rolling yourself up manage to allow something that you might have carried from the previous lesson to release? And then bending your knees again, standing your feet. Interlace your fingers, come behind your head. And once again, lift your head and your pelvis. And roll in the headwards direction towards 12. See if you can find that line today. Is it in the same place as it has been, or is it moving a little bit? And then begin to explore the top section of your clock from 12 to 1 and back to 11. Just make sure that you're still breathing, that your jaw is soft, your eyes are soft. And apart from the strong contraction in the front of you, is there anywhere else that could also be soft and still have this intention of rolling into a little ball and beginning to press on these numbers around your clock? So expanding to include 2 and 10. Really having the intention that it's a nice round clock. And all the way around to 3 and 9. And notice in this part of the clock, are you more aware of the pressing into the floor, the paint arriving on your back and making a semicircle, or leaving a clear, unpainted line on the floor? And put it down. Just notice, is there anywhere that's appreciating the rest? And when that's drained away, then you bend your knees again, locate your feet, interlace your fingers, and lift your head. And this time we're going to explore rolling towards 6. And so is it easier if your pelvis is further into the air or just a little bit away from the floor? But remember that 6 is well before your pelvis comes back to the ground. And begin to explore that bottom rim of the clock from 6 to 5, back to 7. Making it nice and smooth and circular. And gradually expanding that bit as well. to include 4 and 8. And all the way across the bottom from 3 to 9. And put your ball down and rest. Notice which parts are coming closer to the floor now. Where are you beginning to notice things that perhaps weren't in your attention before? And then bending your knees again. Bringing your hands behind your head. Lift your head and your pelvis, curl up into a ball. Feel your front really closing up as your back gets longer and rounder. And this time roll across to the left and find 9. Just find that line a couple of times. And then begin to explore the left side of your clock. So between 10 and 8, that little piece of an arc. Even with that small distance, can you get a sense that it's curved? You find a smooth curve. And then increasing to include 11 and 7. Just going slowly enough that you can have a sense of exactly where each number is, that you can intentionally press on the number as you arrive at it. And you can really mark the place on the floor and on your back where each of those numbers belongs. And continue to increase that semicircle all the way from 12 back round to 6 again. And notice on this side of the clock, what are you most aware of? Paint arriving on your back, or the paint leaving the floor? And leave it. Come down and rest. So we've explored each side of the clock. Feldenkrais being a tidy sort of a fellow, he likes to get us to do the bits and then put them together in some kind of logical way. So if you were a logical engineering sort of a fellow, do you think you might come back and roll up to 12 and begin to head all the way around in a clockwise direction? So when you're ready, you can bend your knees and interlace your fingers. Having found all the bits, logically it should make sense that they'll still be there when you look for them in a whole circle. But just notice, as you go all the way around, can you find clearly each number in its place on the circle? Keeping your pelvis off the ground, keeping your head off the ground. Is the circle the same shape and size on both sides? And maybe pause for a moment. Just to rest the weight of your ball. And when you're ready, finish the process by coming back, starting at 12 and heading around in an anti-clockwise direction. And it often surprises me that just changing direction changes the quality of the movement or puts the lumps and bumps in a different place. So what will you find as you go round your circle the other way? And when you have completed your circling to your satisfaction, let it go, come down long. And once again, notice your relationship with the floor. How much of you can actually connect with the floor and take that support that it offers. And I don't know if you can remember what your sensation was on whenever it was, Tuesday night, when you were last in this place. Can you imagine coming up to vertical, what that would be like today? with this sense of length in your back and length in your front. And you gently come up with the intention of keeping as much of that in your sensation as you can. Bring the circle on your back. Leave the unpainty circle on the floor. And see what's it like now to bring that length over your feet. Do you feel taller or shorter or wider or somehow different than usual? And take it for a bit of a walk. See how much of that goes with you, what effect it has. Thought Simon had got shorter until he walked past Zoran, and then I realised he hadn't. Okay, it's lunchtime, and you have until 2 o'clock, so enjoy.